What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing here, back with another video, and in today's video, guys, we're going over the top recommended priority for characters that you want to be pulling for in Genshin Impact. Obviously, guys, at the end of the day, it's what characters you like in Genshin, but what I want to do is I kind of want to go over characters based on my experience playing them, if I've gotten to use them or not, and where I would actually rank them in terms of the priority for you to actually be picking up as a free-to-play, and if you want to be saving pulls for these types of characters. If you guys enjoy videos like this, man, definitely make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as we are on the road to that 1K subscribers, guys. And if you guys didn't know, we are doing a 5x Welcome Moon giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, and if you want to be entered into that giveaway, make sure that you're subbed to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos and anything to do with the giveaway as well. And with that out of the way, man, let's hop in, guys, and let's go over the tier list right here. So we have the high priority, we have the good priority, we have the mid priority, low priority, and not worth pulling for. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna rank each of the characters based on where I think they kind of place in this kind of tier ranking system. So starting out, guys, with the first character here, let's talk about Venti and see where we actually place him. Alright, guys, so we got Venti here, and in my opinion, guys, Venti is not worth pulling for, man. Now, this is crazy to say, man. Like, the first ever Archon in the game, if this was the beginning of the game, guys, Venti would be in higher priority 100%, man. This character was absolutely insane back in the day. You know, he had really good grouping capabilities, and yeah, I mean, a lot of the enemies, you know, in like the first version 1 of Genshin Impact were really just able to be sucked into Venti's elemental burst, and yeah, it was really easy for them. But unfortunately, the thing is with Venti, guys, is that over time, a lot of enemies have gotten able to the point where they're not able to really be grouped, right? And I think that became a real big issue for Venti, and nowadays he's just not the greatest. So unfortunately, I gotta say, not worth pulling for Venti at the moment. And yeah, I mean, you know, maybe if they buff him in the future, then maybe it's worth, but until then, this character is not worth pulling for. Alright, guys, now moving on to Klee right here. In my opinion, guys, Klee, I would say, is also not worth pulling for, in my opinion. I do think Klee is still a solid pyro DPS. I mean, you're gonna get you know, a decent amount of value out of her in terms of like her damage and all that, but she's not really close to Hu Tao, Arlecchino, and yeah, I mean, just in terms of damage from a pyro DPS, it's really not gonna be worth it. Like, I could probably put her in like low priority, but honestly, the thing is with this, guys, is that I gotta base it off the fact that I've really not used Klee. Like, I have Klee on my account, but I really don't use her like that. Yeah, man, I think, you know, Klee right now, it's just kind of clunky to play too, because she's a catalyst, right? Like, you know, a little bit clunky to play. But yeah, I mean, she's still a solid character, guys. You know, if you do want to pick her up because you like the character, then go for it. Like, again, like, this tier list is based off the fact that, you know, I'm going based off of my personal experience with each of the characters and where I feel they rank based on how good I think they are personally. But again, guys, if you have good experience with Klee and you enjoy her, then go for it. Moving on to the next character, guys, we got Tartaglia here, or Child. So I actually think Child is mid-priority. He is actually a very good character on one team only in the game, and that team is Tartaglia, Bennett, Xiangling, and Kazuha. That team is a very good team. It's called International, right? That team is absolutely insane. The reason why I put Child, though, in the mid priority is because, you know, he only has that one team, and, you know, that team is not going to be able to beat every single cycle of the Abyss. I mean, it probably is always good on like one side, but overall, because Child doesn't really have too many flexible team options, I mean, am I really going to recommend the character too much considering that? Like, honestly, he could go in low priority too. But he has a good team, though. He has a good team. I'll give him mid because he does have a good team, but it's really dependent on if you like the character enough to warrant using him. And he only has that one team anyway. And, you know, it's not like very well heavy for that team. It's only Kazuha and Child. And if you have that setup, then you're probably good to go. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a solid team and still to this day puts in the work. So, yeah, guys, there you go. I would say Child is going to be the mid priority. Moving on to the next character here, guys, we got Zhongli. And you guys know all the time that I talk about Zhongli, I literally did a video about him recently in terms of why I recommend him so much. He is going to go in high priority for me. And the main reasoning why I say that is because I think Zhongli overall is going to be the most comfort character you can get on your account. He's going to be comfort. He's going to be really good for supporting your team. You know, he red shreds. He gives you a interruption resistance. He gives you, you know, what is it? Tenacity or Archaic Petra for the buffs. he's doing so much, man. He has a petrified burst, like he has a Geo construct as well. You know, Zhongli's doing so much, guys. Still to this day, an absolutely insane character. You know, when they buffed the character on his release, I did not think he would last this long in terms of how dominant this character is, but you know, his shield is still the strongest shield in the game. It has not been, you know, touched at all, man. If you're looking for a really good shielder support character, Zhongli is a high priority in my opinion. Alright guys, now moving on to Albedo here. In my opinion, Albedo I don't think has yeah, he's not really that good. I'll say low priority. The thing is with Albedo is that he doesn't really have any like best in slot teams that are good. That's the problem, right? Like none of his teams are really best in slot. And also one thing to mention about Zhongli, guys, I don't think any of Zhongli's teams are best in slot. Unless you're a mobile player, then you could actually argue that. But I think overall, and I want to make this point about Zhongli, is that even though he's not the best in slot for every team, he's second best in everything. Like literally second best in almost every team. That's why, again, I give Zhongli so much praise. Albedo, on the other hand, though, is not doing everything that Zhongli is doing. Albedo does have a Geo construct as well. It does really good off-field damage. You can generate energy with it too. So he still has his value, and I think on some teams it can be good. You can also run, what is it? The Xilonen signature, the Peak Patrol song, to actually buff your team for elemental damage. You know, he's able to buff EM as well. So, you know, there is some buffing that Albedo is able to do, guys. But overall, it's very low priority. He also did get power crept with, you know, Chiori. Chiori is just kind of a better slot than him for that, you know, sub DPS Geo slot that you're kind of looking for. But yeah, I still actually like Albedo, and I use him a ton nowadays. It's just, I think overall for like my general ranking and priority, I would say he's probably low priority. Moving on to the next character, guys, we got Ganyu. Now, I'm going to put Ganyu in the low priority as well. I think Ganyu is actually still a very, very good DPS on specific team setups. I think on a melt team right now, or a melt burning team, like if you run like Ganyu, Nahida, Bennett, Deya, or Zhongli, that team is still absolutely insane. It can easily, you know, 36 star the Abyss. You know, I think overall Ganyu is still like damage-wise able to compete. You know, the melt damage is good. It's just Ganyu as a character is kind of hard to play. You know, she's a charge shot bow user, so that means you definitely want to have a shielder or like a Deya for interruption resistance. You need someone to kind of, you know, help her from getting knocked back. And if you're a mobile player, like you probably struggle a lot to play Ganyu too, right? That's probably like a you know, a super headache right there. But yeah, guys, I mean, you know, she has the perma-freeze team, she has the melt team, still solid teams, just not anything close to being like a super meta dominant team nowadays. You definitely can still use Ganyu and be successful. I just think right now she is a low priority character. Moving on to the next character, guys, we got Xiao here. Now, Xiao I'm going to put in the mid priority. I think Xiao is still a good character. I think he can definitely perform. You know, he has gotten a lot of buffs as well throughout the character releases that we've gotten. So, Faruzan, you know, Xianyun. You have like Furina as well, like that's obviously another good pick too. There's been a lot of characters. Even Zhongli is still really good with Xiao for like interruption res, and Bennett is still really good with him too. So, you know, there's been a lot of buffs to Xiao, and I think overall he still can compete. He doesn't have like a team that's better than a lot of the main DPS characters in the game right now, and he only really has like one team in my opinion. It's kind of the same thing as Xiao. Like they perform really well. Like Xiao has like Faruzan, yeah, Faruzan, Xianyun, and then Flex, so like Furina, Zhongli, Bennett, like that slot, you know, you can kind of run like a bunch of different options, and Xiao is really good for that. So, you know, I think I would probably put him in the same tier as Child. Like he's still very good, can definitely compete, and he's really good in terms of AoE damage. Like, if you're looking for like an AoE, you know, kind of DPS character, guys, I think Xiao is still really good. So mid priority in my opinion. Is not like a highly recommended DPS or anything like that, but still can put in the work to this day. And if you have the supports for him, definitely give him a shot. Alright guys, now moving on to the next character here, we got Hu Tao. I'm going to put Hu Tao in the mid priority in my opinion. I think Hu Tao is still a very good character and can still kind of, you know, dish out relatively strong numbers nowadays. I think her damage is actually very close to nowadays DPS as well on a vaporized team setup, guys. Like she actually can deal a ton. The main gripe that I have with Hu Tao is that if you're going to be, like if I'm recommending this to you as a free-to-play, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it too, I might bump Hu Tao down a bit actually because of what I'm about gotta say. But the reason why I actually don't recommend Hu Tao as much as you'd think is because of the fact that C1 feels like it's needed at this point in the game, which kind of sucks, you know. You kind of like are forced to get that C1. C0 Hu Tao is not mid priority. She's probably like low or even not worth pulling for. C1 Hu Tao is probably mid priority, but that's the thing. Do I want to recommend a character at, you know, mid priority at a C1? Like, honestly, at that point, I might just put her in low priority. Yeah, like that's the thing with Hu Tao, in my opinion. Like, I think she's still great. She can definitely compete with nowadays DPS in terms of damage wise. Like, she is capable of doing that on like a vaporized team setup. I just think that like needing that C1 for the most part, guys, is very difficult. And yeah, I'm not gonna recommend C1 on a character that's this old. Like, you have so many other characters that have way better C1s as well. So yeah, overall, I don't really think Hu Tao is gonna be better than that. I actually will probably put her in the low priority just because she is a little dupe dependent. Yeah, okay, so there you go, guys. Now moving on to the next character, guys, we got Eula. Now, in my opinion, guys, Eula is a good DPS, but I gotta put her in not worth pulling for right now. The problem is with Eula is she only has one team, and that team is good, but you have to be very, very like good at the game. You have to be able to dodge really good, and you have to be very optimized. And you also have to have a C5 Bennett as well, from what I've seen. So you have to run, what is it? C5 Bennett, you have Furina, Rosaria, Eula, I think it is, right? I think that's the team. So yeah, a C5 Bennett though is tough. Or I know, I think Raiden's in that team as well, actually. I forget the exact team that you run for that Eula, but yeah, there is like options for Eula in terms of that setup. And you know, I think she's still like a good DPS, guys, to an extent. You know, it depends on the type of enemies you're fighting, but multi-wave has cucked Eula a ton. You know, her damage now, like on the actual burst itself, compared to like other characters that can dish out quick damage, not really comparable in that sense. So you know, overall, I'd probably have to put Eula in the not worth pulling for, in my opinion. But yeah, again, you know, I have a lot of fun with Eula still nowadays, but I just don't think she's really going to be competing with nowadays DPS characters, but she's still, you know, a fun character to play around with, guys. But yeah, just not worth pulling for, in my opinion. Alright, guys, now moving on to Kazuha. I am going to put Kazuha in the high priority, man. I mean, that's a given. Kazuha is a very, very good character, able to buff up your elemental damage up to 40%, give you a elemental res shred of up to 40% as well for Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, Electro. You know, he's doing a ton of damage as well with his off-field on his burst. And yeah, I mean, you know, that buffing capabilities, I mean, 40% elemental damage buff with 40% res shred, that is an absolutely insane buff. And you really can't, you know, deny how potent, you know, Kazuha's been in the meta for as long as he has. And you know, he's still a very good character, you know, regardless of how you play. You know, absolutely insane. And again, as I mentioned, like, Kazuha was best in slot for like Child. He's still really good on like Hu Tao. He's still good for, you know, for Ganyu teams. You know, Klee probably uses him. Like, so far for like the characters we've gotten, like a lot of them that are reacting to an emo like would benefit from Kazuha. And it's the same goes for Zhongli. Like, a lot of these characters would need Zhongli as well. So that's why I'm highly rating these characters, guys. Like, Kazuha is a high priority, Zhongli's a high priority. So yeah, man, just an absolutely insane character. Let's move on now to the next character. Now moving on to the next character, guys, we got Kamisato Ayaka. Now, I'm very hesitant to put Ayaka in mid priority because I think like Ayaka is still very good. Like, if you min max an Ayaka, she can easily be beating the Spiral Abyss 36 star no effort. It's actually very easy to do. Well, not no effort, but you know, it's easy to do it if you're like a tryhard with Ayaka. That's pretty much what I'm trying to get at. The thing is with that though is that it's kind of the same thing with Ganyu. It's like, if you're able to be that tryhard with Ayaka and Ganyu, then you're able to perform well. But for like low investment, if you're just getting started with Ayaka, she's very hard to use. Her teams are very, very limited as well, because I think you're only really running perma freeze or like a very strong melt comp, right? You know, because of that, you're kind of limited to, you know, that one slot right there in terms of teams. And you know, perma freeze right now is not the greatest. Melt is still good, but you have to have, I think, a C5 Bennett as well. You know, it's kind of the same thing with like Eula, right? You're kind of limited in terms of your you know, selection teams wise. So yeah, guys, I'd say low priority. I mean, she's still definitely good, but not going to be better than nowadays DPS, and they're definitely better options. Alright, guys, now moving on to the next character, we got Yoimiya. So Yoimiya, in my opinion, guys, unfortunately, it's the same thing with Klee here. It's just not worth pulling for Yoimiya, man. It's so sad. It's like Yoimiya is such a, you know, fun character. Like, I love the way she looks, and you know, her whole like demeanor is also very cool. But I think like the one thing that really sucks about Yoimiya, man, is that she's only very single target heavy. And if you're not like facing like a one boss enemy, like if you're placing multi-wave in Spiral Abyss, you're not doing well with Yoimiya. It's actually like terrible. Like she and Eula are like really bad single target, or for multi-wave I mean, right? Because they're only really like single target. Like Eula has her burst, I guess, for AoE, but Yoimiya really doesn't have too much. Like even her burst is not a lot of it like damage, right? It's not damage, so you know, it's just kind of applying the you know, effect on him. So yeah, overall, Yoimiya just not worth playing for right now, guys. Unfortunately, she just, you know, very single target reliant. So if you have an Abyss that's single target oriented, she's alright. But in my opinion, just not worth pulling for. Alright guys, now I might have a little bit of bias here with this next character, but moving on, we got Raiden Shogun. Now, Raiden Shogun I'm going to give good priority in my opinion, guys, and the reason why I say this is because Raiden is still very good across the entire board in the game. You know, we're talking C0 Raiden though, right? C0 Raiden, if you do run her on Hyper Carry with Chevreuse, I think she's actually still very, very good. A lot of people don't like to really give her value in that sense. I think she's actually still great on that team. Raiden's still good on as a driver, you know, on like a national team. She can battery the whole team. You can run like Bennett, Xiangling, Sing Shou. She's still very good on that. You can run her as a off-field elemental skill bot for like Hyper Bloom, or even a Hyper Bloom driver as well. She has a lot of different team variations right now, guys. I think Raiden is still very good even at C0. You can definitely take advantage of the character and still get away with it. So yeah, no, I would actually put her in a good priority in my opinion. I think she's good. She's not better than Zhongli, Kazuha, and a bunch of other crazy support slash DPS characters in my opinion, but she's still very good. And if you do, you know, invest in the character, get high dupes, kind of the same situation with Hu Tao. Like she can perform up to par with like standard DPS characters nowadays, but she's more flexible, right? You know, you have a lot more team options, whereas like Hu Tao is kind of just limited to vape teams to be able to compete. Raiden can compete on Hyper Carry, she can compete on National, still doing very, very good, and yeah, I would say Raiden's still very good and good priority. Alright guys, now moving on, we got Kokomi here. Now, I think Kokomi is probably going to go in the mid priority. I think she's still a good character for a lot of different teams. You know, Perma Freeze, you got Hyper Bloom, you got Mono Hydro. She has a few, you know, options you can actually run for the character, and she's still very good in those slots. You know, she's probably the best, you know, off-field Hydro healer in the game in my opinion. So that definitely gives her some, you know, bonus points right there. And yeah, I think she is still very good. You can run her Ocean Clam, so you still get damage on the, you know, pretty much off-field damage, like or not off-field damage, but like damage while you're healing, right? So you're obviously getting the heals and you're dealing the damage. So yeah, I think that is pretty valuable, and yeah, I would say she's a mid priority, still a good character, just not, you know, like a high priority or good priority in terms of my recommendations right nowadays, but still very, very good as a healer. Alrighty guys, moving on to the next character with Arataki Itto. Now, Itto, in my opinion, is gonna be low priority. I think this unfortunately goes to show like the whole Geo team, like Mono Geo, unfortunately is a very low priority or not worth pulling for team, arguably. And the reason why I say that is because Mono Geo right now is a very high investment team, and even at high investment, the team is not really competing with nowadays DPS teams, guys. Like it unfortunately is not. Arataki Itto though is still very good, and his damage is very, very strong. He can do very good elemental burst damage when he infuses himself, and his elemental skill is very good too for just instant like just damage. You just get it out there, and it's a Geo construct as well. So you know, he could be there, definitely flexible with that. Yeah, I would say though probably low priority in my opinion, though. I think the whole Mono Geo team is very you know, very expensive to build, and if you're not running Mono Geo, you're running Arataki Itto Xilonen, which is still also a very expensive team as well, which we'll talk about. That is good, which is the whole like Furina, Xilonen, Yelan, Arataki Itto, or Furina, Xilonen, Bennett team, right? So a very, very expensive team, but yeah, I mean, still very good. I think, yeah, right now I'd probably say Arataki Itto is still low priority though, because of that. Like even though he has Mono Geo and the Xilonen comp, I just don't think right now it's gonna be, you know, that insane in my opinion, guys. I still think like I love Mono Geo and I still love playing the team, but it's not a standard meta team in my opinion. It's just, you know, not gonna be as good. But yeah, Arataki Itto gonna be low priority right there. Now moving on to the next character here, guys, we got Shenhe, and I'm gonna put Shenhe in low priority as well. This again is a very dependent thing on if you're running crowd DPS characters. If you're building crowd DPS characters, Shenhe is great. She's the best crowd support in the game right now, in terms of like, you know, buffing capabilities. So, you know, it's very, very good. The thing is though with that is like, you know, in terms of running Shenhe, would you rather just run Furina and get her buff over Shenhe and be able to like, you know, freeze, and you can run maybe like Rosaria instead of you know, Shenhe. You could definitely do something like that, right? If you want to go for like a perma freeze team, you could probably run that. And I don't really feel Shenhe's good on a more like melt team, in my opinion. I just don't really see too much use on like a melt team, guys. Yeah, low priority for sure, man, or arguably not worth pulling for. It honestly depends. Like, if you're not pulling for Ayaka or Ganyu, not worth pulling for sure. But if you do have any of these like cryo DPSs, like, you could maybe get some value out of it. Like, it's still good. And, you know, in the future when we get, you know, the Saritsa and you know, we're getting a bunch of cryo buffs, then maybe Shenhe is gonna be very good, and yeah, could definitely help out the characters then. But you know, at the moment, I'd have to give her the low priority right there, guys. Alright, guys, now moving on to the next character. Here we got Yae Miko. I'm going to put her in low priority. I don't think Yae Miko nowadays is going to be worth pulling for, especially if you just run Fischl. They kind of have the same, you know, like play style in a sense, right? Like, you kind of just drop the elemental skills and you hop off field. You know, Yae Miko's still good on certain teams. He's still better than Fischl in a sense on some teams, like, you know, the Tignari team, she is better. And I think overall, you know, with you know, with dupes on Yae Miko, she could definitely out damage a Fischl. But overall, very comparable at C0 versus like a C6 Fischl. So yeah, I'd say low priority right now. I mean, if you already got Fischl very built, then honestly not worth pulling for. But yeah, definitely a low priority character. She works really well on a ton of, like, you know, either Hyper Bloom, Aggravate spread teams. So good, but yeah, I'd say low priority at the moment for Yae Miko. Alrighty, guys, moving on to the next character, we got Kamisato Ayato. Now, Ayato would also be another low priority character in my opinion. Now, the thing is, Ayato is very similar to Child, but Child is just better in that one team that you run. Right, so like the one team that you'd run for Ayato if you want to run like a vape team would be Bennett, Shangling, and then Kazuha, right? You either run that team or you run a more normal attack focused buffing team with like Yunjin, Furina, and you know, you can kind of do like a flex out there. You could do like Xilonen, right? Something along those lines. So, you know, yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to say with Ayato right now, man. He's just kind of been outshadowed by other DPSs in the game. He's just really not as insane as them. You know, it's very, very unfortunate that that's the case nowadays. But yeah, man, you know, I like Ayato a lot. You know, I really like using the character. You know, he's fun. But right now, like, DPS wise, not comparing anywhere close to Neuvillette or, you know, Arlecchino or any like nowadays DPS. So low priority, or arguably not worth pulling for. You can honestly say that too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna put him in low priority, same as Yae Miko. I'm gonna put them together, man. Low priority, guys. Now, moving on to the next character, guys, we got Yelan. Yelan is going to go in high priority, in my opinion. Yelan, even though... Okay, you know what? I'm going to put her in good priority. And the reason why I say this is because if you have Xingqiu already and you have him very, very built, you might not, you know, feel like you need Yelan. Yelan is very, very good and is definitely a upgrade over Xingqiu. But I think if you already have a very built Xingqiu, then you probably don't need to actually get her in that sense, right? Like, that's the way I'm kind of thinking about it. Like, I think she's still a very, very good option and the same level of strength as these other characters I have in high priority right now. But I think the thing is with Yelan is she's replaceable, whereas like Kazuha is not replaceable. Zhongli is not replaceable right now. Like that's the high priority. Like these characters that are in high priority, I feel like they cannot be replaced. There's no other option, you know, to use other than those two characters, right? So that's why I'm gonna put Yelan in good priority. Again, still the level of strength as Kazuha, Zhongli, but because of the fact that you have Xingqiu, which is also not necessarily the level of them, but still able to be used in the same, you know, kind of play style as Yelan, I do not, yeah, I can't give her high priority. I literally can't. Yeah, she's still very good though, guys. Do not get it twisted. Yelan, absolutely absurd character, and if you do want to pick her up just to upgrade your, you know, your off-field hydro damage, go for it. She's still a major upgrade over Xingqiu, and will help your team in terms of damage. Moving on, guys, we got Cyno here. So Cyno, in my opinion, I'm gonna give him the probably not worth pulling for right now. It's so sad to say, man. Cyno, like, on his release was a very fun character, but he's just not good, guys. He's just not good. You can run so many other driver characters that do more than Cyno, and even, like, I swear Yae Miko does more. Raiden does more. Like, even when we get to other electro characters, like Clorinde will do more when we get to her. Like, Cyno, unfortunately, man, like, it's the same thing with Ayato. It's like they both don't have, like, they were never, like, insane. But, like, Cyno felt good on his release. But, like, since then, he's kind of, like, fallen off, though. Right? It's kind of, like, my take on it right now. So, it's like, I don't know, man. Ayato was, like, never good. He was just kind of there. but like he got absolutely power crept by Neuvillette. So I don't know, guys. Maybe we do move down Ayato and Cyno and put them in net worth. For me, it's kind of a thing of like, if the character is absolutely power crept and the fact that they're just, you know, not really even good anymore, like not even really abyss clearing anymore, like if they're just not clearing abyss like that anymore, guys, then it's really hard to recommend, man. So yeah, I'd say Cyno gotta go in the not worth pulling. It's very sad about that, but yeah, he's not worth pulling for right now. Moving on to the next character, guys, we got Nilou here. Now, Nilou, I'm going to say, is mid-party. If you have Bloom going, like if you get Kokomi, you get Nilou, you get Nahida, which we'll talk about soon. You know, if you have, like, in Baizhu, like, that's another good character. Like, you will have a absurdly strong team, but it's a one-team thing. You know, mid-party right now, in my opinion, like, the mid-party section, guys, is one team that is a very, very good team. That's what mid-party is right now. You have one really good team, very, very strong, or you're Kokomi, where you're very flexible, but you're just not the level of strength as the good party. So that's what I'll say for Nilou. Like, very, very strong in her own, like, team slot when you're running Bloom. But if the Abyss is not catered to Bloom, she's not very good. But when it is, she's just absolutely insane. So I gotta give her the mid-priority. Very, very good character in that sense, guys. So yeah, you know, on that one team, Bloom is just absurd. Moving on, guys, we got Nahida here. I'm gonna put Nahida in the good priority. Now, the reason why I don't have Nahida in higher priority, in my opinion, guys, is because I think Nahida, as of late, is kind of fallen off a little bit. You know what I mean? Dendro reactions and in terms of like damage and stuff kind of has fallen off. Nahida gets really good with dupes for sure, but it's still viable at C0, and I think that's a good thing to mention too. I think Nahida as well can be strong for buffing your team. You know, if you want EM for your team, she's able to do that. She's just kind of a better EM buffer than Albedo while having Dendro damage, which Dendro is scaling through, you know, getting more damage based on EM as well. So yeah, no, Nahida is still great. You know, there's just a lot of things to say about Nahida. It's kind of the same situation as Raiden, where like, you know, on field Nahida is all right. You know, it's good. Like, you can use it, and same with like C0 Raiden on field is still good too. So it's kind of the same thing as that, and their off field damage is good too, though. Like, the Dendro out from Nahida is the best Dendro up in the game, in my opinion, right? Like, that's good. So I gotta give Nahida the good party right now, and yeah, very, very good character. If you want best Dendro up in the game, go for Nahida. Very good character. And yeah, I guess we'll move on now to the next character. Now, Wanderer here, I think, is going to go in the, I'll say low priority, because of the fact that he has very good movement. Movement is clutch for Scaramouche, but in my opinion, guys, damage-wise, this character is not competing. He's just not competing. I've tested him out multiple times, C0. Xiao is just better. Xiao is just better. Like, I think in terms of the amount of damage you would get out from Xiao versus Scaramouche, I think Xiao is probably doing more. You know, Scaramouche is very reliant on a shielder as well. He kind of needs that, or like some interruption res, because without that he gets absolutely staggered. Like, at least Xiao, when he's plunging, like, he can still, you know, kind of plunge through even when he's kind of getting hit. You just kind of have to, like, you know, make sure you're aligned in a spot where you're not going to get hit. Scaramouche, you got to do a lot of dodging, and in midair it's kind of hard with Scaramouche to dodge too. So yeah, I'm gonna give him low priority. Still good DPS, like, he can still do damage, but yeah, man, again, like, Xiao's a better Nemo DPS. We have a Chaska coming out soon too. Like, Chaska is gonna be like an outright replacement of this character, guys, like, if we're being honest, right? So I don't know, man. Right now I'll put low priority. Like, I still think he's better than, like, nah, I don't even think he's better than Ayato. I gotta give him not worth. I gotta give Scaramouche not worth, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just not worth right now. Like, even with the movement tech is good, but like, Chaska's gonna do it too. Like, Chaska's probably gonna be better than him and have that movement tech. So yeah, man, I'm gonna go with not worth playing for Wanderer Scaramouche. Alrighty, guys, now moving on to Alhaitham here. I think Alhaitham, the thing is with Alhaitham, a very, very good DPS. He does need Nahida to do well, but I think he can still dish out a lot of damage, and the damage is comparable to nowadays DPS. I'll give Alhaitham good priority. I think the thing is, though, if you're running Alhaitham without Nahida, a lot lower on this list. A low priority, mid priority, maybe even not worth pulling for. You know, and I think too, another thing to mention too is that there's a lot of other on-field drivers you can run instead of Alhaitham that still perform, maybe not as good as him specifically, but it's still close. And I don't know, you know, I'm gonna toss up right now between mid priority and good priority for Alhaitham. I'm gonna lock in good priority for now. I think he's still very good. He's just very dependent on like Nahida. Like without Nahida, you know, it's not the greatest. I think it's the same situation as like Child. Like he has like one major team. You obviously have like Hyper Bloom with him, which is good, but you also have Spread Aggravate. Like that is gonna be probably his best one. And with that one, it's really, you know, locked to Nahida. You know, you get like off-field Electro, and then you're either running like Xilonen, or you're running like Kazuha, like some type of buffer, right? You know, you're trying to get that extra damage. So yeah, I don't know. I would say right now I'd probably put him in good priority, but again, like it's kind of the same situation as like Child, but I think like Alhaitham's damage is a lot better and more flexible for Abysses, you know, because you have Hyper Bloom and you also have spread Aggravate. So yeah, all right, good priority for Alhaitham right there. Moving on, guys, we got Baizhu. So Baizhu I'm going to put in the good priority as well. I think Baizhu is very good. Healer for Dendro. He's a shielder for Dendro to provide interruption res. So, you know, there's a lot of teams people run Baizhu on. He's very good on, like, Neuvillette teams. I know a lot of people like to run him on Neuvillette, just to have the shield, but also, you know, to get the healing too, you know, to definitely help out his damage. Yeah, no, Baizhu is very, very good, man. Even on, like, Nilou Bloom, like, as I mentioned, Nilou Bloom's good. Yeah, and he's not, like, you know, stuck to, like, one team. He has multiple different teams. You could run Hyper Bloom, you could run Spread Aggravate, as, like, a shielder, right? Shielder, healer. So, yeah, no, I think Baizhu's good. I think Baizhu's definitely a good priority. You know, he has his value. And yeah, there are some teams, so like with Alhaitham, you could run Baizhu instead of Nahida. You have him for your Dendro, right? You can still do that. You know, there is some flex options. That's why I'll give them, like, you know, all very similar ranking here. So I'm gonna go good priority for Baizhu right there. Alrighty, guys, now moving on to Lyney here. I'm gonna say low priority for Lyney. Now the thing is though, with Lyney, he can do very, very good damage. Now don't get it twisted. Lyney is honestly damage wise, we're talking like this tier of level of damage. But because he's a charge attack playstyle character, very, very limited to like a mono pyro team as well. Very shield reliant as well. Interruption res is a problem for him. Low priority in my opinion, guys. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, again, like, he's very, very good damage wise, so you could argue maybe mid priority. Maybe we'll do mid priority. You know, Lyney has really good damage, so you know what, I'll do that. But I don't think he's gonna be competing with, you know, like Arlecchino. Like if we're talking pyro DPS comparison, Arlecchino. I think in a sense also as well, like if we're talking C0 Lyney versus C0 Hu Tao, probably Lyney, but like C1 Hu Tao definitely better than Lyney in my opinion. Like that's what I would say. But yeah, we're talking C0, guys. We're talking C0, no dupes. So Lyney, yeah, mid priority. Like if you got shielder, you're fine. Daya maybe for interruption res. You want to go kind of like a mono pyro type, you know, setup with him, right? So yeah, he's good. He's definitely good. I don't know. I'm the thing is with me is like the charge attack playstyle, unless you got some like a crazy interruption res, you're not really gonna be doing too well. But yeah, I'll give him mid priority right there for Lyney. Moving on, guys, to our first DPS in high priority. I'm going to go Neuvillette. Neuvillette is the best DPS in Genshin Impact by far. There's no other character right now that can do what he does. He heals. He does. He lowers his HP to do more damage. He gets free crit rate on his artifact set. You know, a really good AoE damage, really good single target damage on the Xilonen, Kazuha, Furina team. Just, yeah, like, he's just an insane character. What else to say about Neuvillette, guys? You guys know about Neuvillette. He's just absurd. Moving on to Wriothesley, guys. I think Wriothesley right now, kind of the same thing as Ayaka. It's hard to recommend a cryo DPS nowadays, guys. I think Wriothesley is good, though. You know, you can definitely do a lot of damage. It's the same kind of situation as Ayaka, but more so less burst reliant than Ayaka, and more so reliant on his like charge attacks and his normals. So yeah, I'd probably say, yeah, I'll go with low priority for him, because it's just cryo right now is just in a very like tough spot, right? Like it's hard to recommend cryo, guys. Like, yeah, I think low priority, but if I had to rank the cryo DPSs though, I'd probably do like this, right? Like probably like this, or maybe like this, like low key Ayaka. You know, Ganyu's still good though, but I'll probably do like either this, like flip flop between Ayaka and Wriothesley. But yeah, man, low priority right now for those guys. In my opinion, just, you know, cryo at the moment, guys, just, you know, if you're not running melt, you're not competing damage wise. It's just simple as that. You're not competing damage wise unless you're running like a melt comp, and melt is very like, you know, it's a quick succession, right? You got to do it very, very quick. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna put with Wriothesley. Let's move on to the next character here. Moving on, guys, Furina. Like, guys, you know Furina, absolutely insane, high priority, free damage bonus for the team, heals your team, lowers their HP, but gets a bonus for that. You know, the more healing or lowering of HP you get, the more damage bonus she's providing. Just an absolutely insane character. Really good off-field damage for Hydro as well. Yeah, I mean, what else to say about Furina, guys? Just an absolutely absurd, high-priority character. Highly recommended for free-to-plays to pick up. Moving on to Navia here, guys. Navia is better than Arlecchino. I will say Navia teams are probably like mid priority, yeah, because Navia is not like literally stuck to mono Geo. That's the thing with Navia. She's more flexible. You have one extra Geo that you run alongside her, just to get the crystallized reactions. It helps with crystallize, and then you have, you know, either Bennett, Furina, or you could do like Yelan. You could do Yelan Bennett. You could do there's a lot you can do actually with Navia. So I will go mid priority with Navia. I think she definitely does more damage than Arlecchino in terms of like a Geo main DPS. And yeah, I mean, you know, with the team flexibility she has as well, very, very flexible in terms of teams. She's not like stuck to like Xilonen, like double Geo Xilonen team, like Ito is, right? So she has more flexibility in that. Like you run her with like Chiori or like Albedo, you know, maybe even Zhongli too. So yeah, that's what I'd say for Navia. I think she's mid priority right now. Still a good character and has her team that's strong. But yeah, I mean, for now, I would probably put her lower than the characters we got above. Moving on, guys, we got Xianyun. Now, Xianyun, I would say, is actually good priority. She enables a whole new type of playstyle in this, and this character actually does save a C0 Hu Tao, and you know, it's the things like that where Xianyun can make it so that you're not reliant anymore on like your charge or normal attacks. If you're able to plunge and have really high plunge damage, then Xianyun's gonna enable that. And you know, there's characters like Hu Tao, D-Luke, Raiden I've seen on plunge. You have a Navia plunge as well. You know, there's so many really good plunge characters, guys. Gaming, like he's the dedicated plunger, with Xianyun is probably even better. Yeah, there's just a lot of plunge you know, capabilities, and I think, yeah, I'll definitely go good priority right there for Xianyun, you know, enabling that playstyle. And she heals, and she buffs into artifacts set it if you're running either VV or Saga Days Pass. Yeah, man, I gotta give her a good priority. She's very good, guys. Moving on to Chiori, guys. I'm gonna go low priority for Chiori. And the reason why is because we're talking about C0 Chiori. C0 Chiori, you need another Geo construct, right? So that means you have to either be running Zhongli, Albedo, you know, Tartaglia, or some other character that can have another Geo construct. If you do not have two Geo constructs, Chiori is just going to be, honestly, you could argue worse than Albedo. And, you know, that's kind of the situation it is. I would say she's overall better than Albedo. Because when you do have her alongside, like, Zhongli, if you do, like, Chiori Zhongli, that core is probably better than, like, Albedo Zhongli nowadays. So, yeah, no, low priority, like, Chiori, right? And again, guys, this is not ranked in the tier, by the way. Not ranked in the tier. Like, don't think that, like, these characters are better than, like, these characters. I just have it the way it is, like this. But, yeah, Chiori, I would say, is better than Albedo, though. So, like, between these two, Chiori is better. But, again, it's not a lot, because Albedo right now is just not good either. So, it's tough to say. You're a little bit better than a character that's not good. So, you know, I'm gonna do low priority for Chiori. But, yeah, she's still good off-field. You know, and yeah, she could definitely do fairly good. Moving on to Arlecchino, guys. We got another DPS character in the high priority. Now, Arlecchino is the strongest pyro DPS in the game, arguably strongest single target DPS in the game, and honestly probably is. You know what I mean? Like, she really is just this best single target DPS in the game. Arguably, though, because we do have another character coming up. Arlecchino's insane, man. You know, absurd damage. She makes Bond to Life for herself, does damage based on Bond to Life. Her signature weapon's very good on her, too. I would say the only thing with, you know, Arlecchino is that her weapon is kind of felt like really felt for her, because it's very Bond to Life oriented. So you feel like you kind of need that. But without it, I mean, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, you can still run like Jade Spear or like Salmon, whatever. Like, it still works. It's just like you get more value out of her actual signature. So, yeah, it's tough to say. But overall, like, she's good. You know, White Tassel Arlecchino still puts in the work, man. So, you know, we got to give her high priority, guys. Top tier DPS in the game at the moment. Moving on, guys, we got Clorinde here. I'm going to put Clorinde in probably good priority. Good priority. C0 Clorinde is a better Electro DPS than Raiden. If you're looking for the strongest Electro C0 DPS in the game, is Clorinde, like, easily, like, right? So she is better than a C0 Raiden. Her teams are more kind of, you know, left to, like, you know, either Furina type comps, right? Or you do like Aggravate, Spread, right? Those are kind of her limited teams. Or I guess Overload as well. Overload with Chevreuse, but yeah, overall, guys, I'd say she is better than the C0 Raiden. But, like, in general, though, like, she's not better than the nowadays DPS. So, like, Arlecchino, Neuvillette, not better than them in terms of damage, but still a very fun character and best Electro DPS in the game at the moment. Moving on to Sigewinne, guys. I'm going to say Sigewinne is not worth pulling for. And the reason why I say this is because Sigewinne is a Hydro healer that is really only good from what I've heard on Mono Hydro. And the thing is with that is that right now is Mono Hydro really a competent team? Not really. You know, we got an upcoming character here that also heals and can be put on a Mono Hydro team for better buffing. So overall, Sigewinne at the moment, not worth pulling for. If you're going to go for a healer, I would say Kokomi is probably better than Sigewinne. Yeah, and Kokomi is more flexible too, not limited to just like one team or one type of play style. So I think Kokomi is going to be better in that sense. So yeah, Sigewinne, in my opinion, guys, is not worth pulling for. Alrighty, guys, we got Emilie here. I'm going to put Emilie in the low priority, and the reason why I say Emilie's low priority is because she's very limited to burning teams. But on burning teams, though, she's very good. So you could maybe argue mid priority, but the thing is, because it's burning and a very niche reaction at that, you know, it's Dendro Pyro, very, very niche reaction. It's tough to say. And I think right now with the main DPS on burning, we're gonna talk about him soon, but without that DPS, like if you don't have Kinich, it's not gonna be looking good for Emilie, man. So yeah, no, I'm gonna go low priority for Emilie. Not the greatest overall character, but on burning, very, very strong and best in slot for sure. Moving on now to Mualani, guys. I'm going to put Mualani in good priority. Mualani is another very, very strong single target DPS. This is why I was talking about arguably strongest single target DPS in the game. You have Arlecchino or Mualani, and Mualani's single target damage, man, with Vape can get up to like 500k normal attacks, guys. 500k normal attacks is absurd. Right, and doing up that damage with a C0 Mualani is insane. The one thing that I would say, the reason why Mualani is not in the high priority is because her playstyle is harder to play and she's less AoE reliant. She's very less AoE. I think Neuvillette, in terms of AoE, if we're talking AoE damage, he's doing way better than Mualani, but Mualani in single target is better than Neuvillette. So that's kind of the trade-off you're taking. But I value AoE a lot more highly than, you know, single target, where we get a lot of multi-phase or a multi-wave and you know, a bunch of enemies like that. So Mualani in that type of setup is a little bit harder to do, because you do have to reapply all your pyro just to be able to get those vapes again. So yeah, I'm gonna go good priority for Mualani right there. Moving on to Kinich, guys, I'm gonna say low priority for Kinich. The reason why I say that for Kinich is because he's really restricted to one type of team. The characters that are restricted to one type of team, guys, you know what? I gave it the same thing for Child, though. So mid priority for Kinich. If you're restricted to one team, but you're very good on that one team, then yeah, mid priority. You know, Kinich is really strong. Like on burning teams, he's very good. Burgeon as well. You could technically run, yeah. So Burgeon, burning is the two teams you can run, but you're mainly only running burning on him, right? But for that team, he's very good. You know, and again, Emilie on that team would make it like really good too. But Emilie herself, it's hard to recommend pulling for Kinich and Emilie. But you can run Kinich and then maybe like Nahida instead, which is probably a more general, better character. But yeah, okay. So that's where I'd rank Kinich right there, mid priority. But still very, very good. Moving on, guys, to the next character we got is going to be Xilonen. I'm going to put Xilonen in the high priority, guys. I mean, Xilonen is absolutely absurd. Pretty much the same thing that Kazuha is doing, but a little bit more. So you could argue that she's actually a little bit better than Kazuha. She gets more of an elemental damage buff because of her signature weapon. Without her signature weapon, still very comparable. A little bit less red shred, but the same amount of elemental damage buff. And yeah, I mean, Xilonen's absurd. You can run her double Geo with Zhongli. Then you get her alongside Zhongli. You get Geo Res for extra damage dealt. And you're getting the red shred on top of that. You get Zhongli's red shred too. Very good. You can run these two together, where you have Kazuha Xilonen for like a Neuvillette team or Arlecchino team. Just hyper carry type team setup. So yeah, guys, I mean, there's just a bunch of different options here you can do with Xilonen. Very, very flexible as well. Same type of flexibility as Kazuha, except you also have the flexibility of running Geo as well. If you run Geo and you run two of them only, including her, then you can actually run that and it's still good. So yeah, guys, that is going to be my list right there for the top priority characters in Genshin Impact. In my opinion, this is the tier list ranking. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, this is based on my personal play with the characters, guys. So if you used a character and you feel like they would rank a little bit higher, or you would rank them in a different spot, let me know in the comments below. And that's gonna be it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy, and we'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.